Right. Part 1. The Early Spark. Ellie Simmonds was born in 1994 in Walsall, England. From the very beginning, her life was different. Diagnosed with achondroplasia, a form of dwarfism, Ellie stood out from her peers not just in height, but in spirit. While other children were running across playgrounds, Ellie was discovering a different world, one that would soon become her stage, the swimming pool. Her parents quickly realized that water gave Ellie something no land could: freedom. In the pool, she wasn't shorter than anyone. She wasn't different. She was just a child moving gracefully through water, her arms slicing forward, her legs kicking with rhythm. Swimming became her escape from labels, but also her passion. By the time she was 5, Ellie had already fallen in love with the water. She begged her parents for more lessons, more time in the pool. Other kids might have been intimidated by the long stretches of water, but Ellie embraced it. She felt powerful, equal, limitless. Her laughter echoed in the swimming halls as coaches began to notice her natural speed and stamina. What started as play soon turned into purpose. By the time Ellie was 8, she wasn't just swimming for fun, she was training. While her classmates were still deciding what sports to try, Ellie was already setting her sights on competitions. The pool became her second home, the smell of chlorine as familiar as the walls of her own bedroom. But behind the joy, a question lingered. Could a girl with dwarfism compete in a world built for those taller, stronger, and older? Ellie didn't know the answer yet, but she was determined to find out. Growing up with dwarfism meant Ellie constantly faced challenges beyond the pool. Everyday tasks others took for granted were often harder for her. She couldn't always reach what she needed, she couldn't always blend in with her peers, and she often felt the sting of being underestimated. Children asked questions, sometimes cruelly. Strangers stared. Even teachers and coaches doubted what she could achieve. But Ellie's spirit was tougher than the doubts that surrounded her. She never saw dwarfism as a limitation, it was simply part of who she was. "I'm small," she once said, "but I have a big heart." Instead of feeling weighed down by differences, she channeled her energy into proving that she could do anything, sometimes even better than those who doubted her. Swimming gave her an outlet for this determination. In the water, she wasn't defined by her size. She was defined by her speed, her endurance, and her willpower. Coaches who at first hesitated quickly learned that Ellie wasn't someone who needed protection, she was someone who needed pushing. At school, when doubts and whispers sometimes got too loud, Ellie focused harder on her training. Every cruel comment became fuel, every stare an unspoken challenge. Her mantra became clear: "Let them underestimate me. I'll show them." By 10 years old, she was not only competing at a national level but also catching the eye of Paralympic coaches. For someone so young, her drive was extraordinary. Where others saw obstacles, Ellie saw opportunities to fight harder. Ellie's rise wasn't accidental. It was built on hours of grueling training, day after day, long before most kids her age even thought about discipline. At just 11, she was training up to 3 hours a day, balancing schoolwork with a swimmer's demanding schedule. Early mornings meant waking before the sun, diving into cold water while others slept, and pushing her body to the edge of exhaustion. There were days when her muscles ached so badly she could barely lift her arms. Days when the weight of balancing childhood and elite training seemed unbearable. But Ellie never wavered. She told herself that every stroke brought her closer to something greater. Her family played a vital role. Her parents drove her to countless practices, cheered her at small competitions, and reminded her why she started. When fatigue threatened to break her, her coaches reminded her of her potential. And deep down, Ellie knew, she wasn't training just to be good, she was training to be the best. By the time she turned 13, Ellie's times in the pool were astonishing. Her performances began making headlines in the world of Paralympic sports. That year, she received the news that would change her life forever. She had been selected to represent Great Britain in the 2008 Beijing Paralympics. She was still a child, barely a teenager, but she was about to face the world stage. And she wasn't going to Beijing just to participate. She was going there to win. When Ellie Simmonds received the call that she had been selected for the 2008 Beijing Paralympics, she was only 13 years old. Most kids her age were busy with school assignments, sleepovers, and playground games. Ellie, on the other hand, was about to face the biggest sporting event of her life, an international stage with millions watching. The announcement shook her world. She couldn't believe she would be swimming alongside athletes she had admired for years. The British media quickly caught on, dubbing her the youngest Paralympian for Team GB. The spotlight was heavy, and for a moment, she felt the weight of expectation pressing down. But Ellie wasn't one to crumble. Instead, she used the pressure as fuel. Every day leading up to Beijing, she trained harder than ever before. Early mornings became routine. Long, punishing laps became her language of determination. The thought of wearing the Union Jack on her cap, of representing not just herself but her country, gave her strength she didn't know she had. She was still a teenager, nervous, wide-eyed, and in awe of the moment. Yet when she stood at the edge of the Olympic pool in Beijing, staring down the blue water under the blinding stadium lights, Ellie transformed. No longer the little girl from Walsall. No longer just a young swimmer with big dreams. She was a competitor. A fighter. A champion in the making. The world watches. The Beijing Paralympics were unforgettable for Ellie, for her family, and for the world. As she prepared for her first event, the pressure was suffocating. Cameras zoomed in, commentators whispered about her age, and her competitors towered over her at the starting blocks. But Ellie didn't flinch. She had trained for this. She was ready. When the race began, Ellie surged through the water with a force that shocked everyone. Stroke after stroke, she powered forward, her determination radiating with every kick. And when she touched the wall, the scoreboard confirmed it. Ellie Simmonds had won gold. At 13 years old, she was now one of the youngest Paralympic champions in history. The crowd erupted, the commentators lost their words, and Ellie, beaming with disbelief, cried tears of joy. But she wasn't finished. Just days later, she claimed her second gold medal, silencing any remaining doubts that her first victory was a fluke. The media called her the Golden Girl of Beijing. Headlines splashed her story across newspapers, praising the teenager who had not only defied the odds but dominated the world stage. Back in the UK, she became a national hero overnight. Schools played her races on screens, children cheered her name, and young athletes with disabilities finally saw a role model who looked like them. For Ellie, Beijing wasn't just about medals. It was proof to herself and to the world that her size was never her limitation. The pool was her battlefield, and she had emerged victorious. Ellie returned from Beijing not just as a Paralympian, but as a national icon. She was honored with awards, celebrated in parades, and invited to countless interviews. She was even named BBC Young Sports Personality of the Year, a recognition that cemented her as Britain's new sporting sweetheart. But fame brought its own challenges. At just 13, Ellie was balancing homework and swimming with a level of public attention that would overwhelm even seasoned adults. Reporters wanted interviews. Fans wanted autographs. Expectations grew heavier by the day. Everywhere she went, people now recognized her. Behind the smiles and celebrations, Ellie sometimes felt the weight of it all. Could she keep winning? Could she live up to the hype? She was no longer just Ellie, the girl who loved swimming. She was Ellie Simmonds, the Paralympic champion. Instead of letting the pressure break her, she turned it into drive. With the next Paralympics scheduled for London 2012, on home soil, she knew the eyes of the nation would be on her again. Beijing had been her breakout, but London would be her true test. So while her friends went out to parties and enjoyed carefree teenage years, Ellie doubled down on training. Endless hours in the pool. Relentless workouts. Every day, she carried the weight of expectation, but also the spark of possibility. London was waiting, and Ellie Simmonds was preparing for the performance of her life. Right. The homecoming. The countdown to the London 2012 Paralympics carried a weight unlike anything Ellie had ever experienced. This wasn't just another competition, it was her home country, her home crowd, her nation's pride. For 4 years, she trained with one goal in mind: to make Britain proud. When Ellie entered the London Aquatic Centre, the roar of the crowd nearly shook the pool. Thousands of fans waved flags, cheered her name, and erupted into thunderous applause as she stepped onto the stage. She was no longer the unknown 13-year-old of Beijing, she was Britain's golden hope. Her races became moments of history. The atmosphere was electric, the energy contagious. And Ellie didn't disappoint. She powered through the water, breaking not only her competitors' spirits but also world records. Gold medals gleamed around her neck as the crowd chanted her name. For Ellie, London was more than victories, it was validation. To stand on the podium, Union Jack draped across her shoulders, in front of her own people, it was a dream come true. She cried as the national anthem played, realizing how far she had come, from a little girl swimming for fun to a global symbol of resilience. The London Games transformed her from a sporting star into a household name. Her story inspired children, parents, athletes, and anyone who had ever been told they couldn't. In those shining moments, Ellie wasn't just a champion, she was the heartbeat of a movement. Rio 2016 and beyond. After London, Ellie could have retired a legend. But champions don't stop at glory. They push for more. The years that followed tested her resilience in new ways. Training grew harder. Injuries crept in. Competitors grew stronger. And with every race, the world expected nothing less than perfection from her. By the time Rio 2016 arrived, the pressure was immense. Critics wondered if she still had the spark that lit up Beijing and London. Ellie answered them in the only way she knew how, by diving into the pool with unshakable determination. In Rio, she once again delivered performances that left audiences speechless. Though not every race ended in gold, her determination never wavered. She stood on the podium again, medals around her neck, proof that her greatness wasn't defined by a single games. Even when she faced setbacks, Ellie's grace shone. She reminded the world that champions aren't just measured by wins, but by perseverance, dignity, and spirit. Her presence alone continued to break barriers for Paralympic athletes worldwide. Tokyo 2020, held in 2021 due to the pandemic, brought another chapter, one filled with challenges, but also with Ellie's trademark courage. Competing once more against the world's best, she showed that her heart remained unshakable, no matter the outcome. Ellie's journey didn't stop at the edge of the water. Beyond her medals, she became a powerful voice for change. She used her platform to advocate for people with disabilities, promoting inclusion, visibility, and equal opportunities. In 2013, she was awarded the Order of the British Empire, OBE, one of the UK's highest honours. But Ellie remained humble, often saying her true reward was inspiring others to chase their dreams. Her career also took her into unexpected places. In 2022, she appeared on Strictly Come Dancing, dazzling audiences with her courage and joy. Once again, she broke barriers not just as a swimmer, but as a public figure, showing the world that disability is never a limitation. Through documentaries, public speaking, and her charitable work, Ellie has continued to inspire people of all ages. Whether standing in front of cameras or quietly encouraging a child in a swimming pool, she carries the same message: believe in yourself. You are capable of more than you think. Ellie Simmonds' story is not simply about swimming, it's about rewriting what's possible. From the little girl in Walsall who found freedom in water, to the teenager who shocked the world in Beijing, to the national icon of London 2012, Ellie's journey embodies courage, resilience, and the refusal to accept limits. Her legacy lives not just in medals, but in the lives she touched. In children who saw her and believed they too could achieve greatness. In families who found hope. In a nation that celebrated her as a symbol of pride. Ellie taught us that strength is not measured in size, but in heart. That barriers are only as high as we allow them to be. And that sometimes, the most extraordinary champions are the ones who begin with the greatest challenges. Her story reminds us all, no matter your circumstances, no matter your struggles, you can rise. You can inspire. You can change the world. Ellie Simmonds did. And her ripple effect will be felt for generations to come.